Salute BookTube, welcome to my channel, thank you for being here. This is actually the second recording I'm making of this video. I started the video and I started to talk. If you've been watching my channel, following the last couple of videos, I always preface my videos with an update of what's going on. My last video went for horrendously long, almost 1 hour, and I apologize for that in advance. Most of you, it's strange. I release a video that's 10 minutes long and it gets very little views, and then I make a video that's almost an hour long and it gets so many views. It's the strangest thing. I'll never understand it. But so I made an original video and I prefaced, give an update of what's going on. But again, just the introduction and the updates, I was recording for about 10, reached 12, almost 15 minutes, and I said I can't keep releasing 1 hour videos. That's number one. I'm gonna bore you to death with my or with issues in the region. Although many of you say, keep it up. To be honest with you, I want to make this channel, at least this video, I want to get away from it a bit. So I stopped the recording. I restarted a new video, this one, because I really don't want to talk about it. I want to just clear. I don't want to make this like a continual war update sort of channel. Maybe in the future, but just now I just need a release, to be honest. So there isn't really anything new. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. Not even the U.S. administration, the Trump administration, knows what's going on, because they didn't have a plan. They didn't have a strategy. Their strategy was, this will end in a couple of days. We'll declare victory and everything will go back to normal. And here we are. We've crossed the 3-week mark when I'm recording this. We're approaching 1 month by the end of March. They don't know what's going on, let alone us, the general public. So, and that's dangerous because it could spiral out of control. Just the amount, the global force of what this is creating, because this is the largest energy supply of oil and gas in the world. And the Iranians and the Gulf countries, they've been back and forth bombing gas fields, bombing refineries. It's just, I don't want to get into it. Like I said, I don't want to, at least for this video, we'll take a break. And the last video was 1 hour. I don't want to make this video 1 hour. What I did want to do in this video was to make a tag, do another tag video. My last video was a tag video. This is another tag video. This tag is similar to the last one. The last one that I filmed, you can watch it if you want. It's called the nonfiction tag, and that I really wanted to do that one because I am, for those of you who are new to my channel, first, I'm based in the United Arab Emirates, and the United Arab Emirates has received the highest number of missiles, I guess second to Iran, but the United Arab Emirates has received the most missile attacks from Iran of any other country, more than Israel, more than the other Gulf countries like Kuwait or Saudi Arabia, more than Iraq, more than Jordan, more than Lebanon. But those countries are all Syria. They're all facing attacks. But UAE is the receiving the most of any country, and that's where I'm based. Number two, for those of you who are new to the channel, I'm mostly a nonfiction reader. So the last tag I did was the nonfiction tag. That was created by my good friend Mike at Bibliophile Reads. And this tag, I was also tagged again by Mike, so thank you, Mike. And this tag is similar. It's another nonfiction. It's the Historathon Book Tag Ancient Cultures edition. I think to coincide with the closing of Q1 of Historathon, where we're encouraged to read books of history that cover prehistory, the dawn of time, before the dawn of man, all the way to the year 500 AD or CE. So that's what this tag is. It's the Historathon Book Tag Ancient Cultures. I was tagged by Mike, but the originator of this tag is Jack at the Rambling Raconteur. That's the name of his channel. I'll link the Rambling Raconteur's channel below in the description. I'll also link to Mike's channel as well, and you should watch his version of this tag. So yeah, I thought I would do it, and again, to avoid another 1 hour long video, we'll get right to the prompts immediately. So the prompts, number 1, again, this is it's the Historathon Book Tag, Ancient Culture. So number 1 is the Romans. What books / writers / genres are your bread and circus? So what, I guess, books do you enjoy, or they're your favorites that you can't get enough of? For me, I discussed this also in my last tag video. My bread and circuses, again, I'm biased because I'm based in the Middle East, so I am biased, and I do enjoy history books specifically. Again, I'm a mostly nonfiction reader, mostly a history reader. I enjoy, my preference is for Middle Eastern books, and I discussed again in my last video, which lasted 1 hour, and hopefully this one won't. I promise I'll try to do my best. What I had discussed was a lot of people know modern, like very recent Middle Eastern history, so let's say 9/11 and after, a bit before 9/11, but let's say the whole sweep of 20th century history, Middle Eastern history, let's say everything before the 1960s, the 1950s, what happened in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, that it's a big gray area that isn't discussed much. Again, it's a bit specialized. Of course, like scholars would study this. You don't expect the general Western public to be interested in this, but because and especially America is heavily involved in the Middle East. I argued in the last video on my channel that if Americans are going to be in forever wars in the Middle East, then they're going to have to understand the Middle East a bit better. That being said, for me, this is my bread and circuses. So what I wanted to do was show 3 books. I've got 3 books here by the same author, just to give you an example of what my bread and circuses are. I just want to put this in order. The author is a well-known historian of the Middle East, a journalist, but who writes very thorough histories of the Middle East, of that period I was talking about. Really the beginning of the 20th century until, let's say, America becomes a superpower after the Second World War. And a bit after that, the 50s into the 60s. He's got actually 3 books. The author's name is James Barr. He's written 3 books about the Middle East, covering that, the first half of the 20th century, basically. The first one is called Setting the Desert on Fire. And that's the author, James Barr. The subtitle of this is T.E. Lawrence and Britain's Secret War in Arabia, 1916 to 1918. And that's, the subtitle pretty much gives away the game. This is Lawrence, this is Britain. The Middle East was under one empire called the Ottoman Empire. It was one Islamic empire, pretty much. There was a Persian empire that was outside, or a Persian nation, and there was an Indian British Raj, but I'm not going to confuse it. The Middle East, the vast 90% of the Middle East was under one empire, one Islamic empire called the Ottoman Empire. But the Ottomans sided with the Germans in World War I. That made them the enemy of Britain. And what Britain did was they co-opted the Arabs. They promised the Arabs, they said, look, we're gonna arm you, we're gonna support you, we're gonna fund you to attack the Ottoman Turks. And once we win this war, the First World War, we will give the Arabs a nation, one nation that you will be able to, one sovereign Arab nation. That's what T.E. Lawrence of legendary fame, especially in the West, the movie Lawrence of Arabia, all of that good stuff. He was the main protagonist, and he had supported the Arab tribes in Arabia. They eventually did kick out the Ottoman Turks, but after the Second World War, or after the First World War, once the Ottoman Turks and the Ottoman Empire was uh, eliminated, essentially, the British reneged. They reneged on their promises. They had, at the same time as they were, um, at the same time they were promising the Arabs one unified Arab state from Egypt to the Gulf, probably including North Africa. At the same time, they were negotiating with the French, and they had made promises to a Zionist movement to say that they would create a Jewish homeland in Palestine, what became Israel. So that's the big, that takes you up to that period. This is mostly World War One in the Middle East, and then the promises. The promises that I had mentioned, that the British made three different promises. They made one promise to the Arabs. They made one promise to the Jewish Zionist movement. They also made promises to their ally France. And instead of giving the Arabs one large country, they divided the Middle East into nation states. And this is James Barr's second book. It's called A Line in the Sand. And that's essentially what they did. They cut up the Middle East, Iraq, Jordan, and Palestine, which was given to to Jewish Zionism, became a British mandate, and so that's the line. They just created a line right across the Middle East. So the red part is for Britain, and the blue part, which is Syria and Lebanon, that they gave to the French. So they reneged on the promises, and that's this book. The subtitle is Britain, France, and the Struggle That Shaped the Middle East. Of course, Britain also retained control of the Suez Canal in Egypt, and then North Africa, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, they let the French control. The British also controlled the Persian Gulf area where I'm at. So basically, all the promises that were made in World War One for Arab support with Arab promises was reneged, and this is the continuation of that. So this takes it up from post World War One really until, I guess, to World War Two. And then the third book, I don't think it's a series, but again, it's the same author, and I apologize, there's a 3-for-2 sticker. I bought this when I was in the UK, and there's a question about that in this tag. But the third book is, again, James Barr, and this one is called Lords of the Desert. Again, here is very much, if this map was focused on the northern Middle East, Iraq, Syria, etc., this one is much more of the southern Arabia, so the Persian Gulf. That over there is the United Arab Emirates. That big blob there is Saudi Arabia. The Gulf, the Persian Gulf, you can see Iran there. The subtitle of this is post-World War II, basically, the 1940s, the 1950s. The subtitle is Britain's Struggle with America to Dominate the Middle East. Because after World War II, Britain, the British Empire, was, in all intents and purposes, finished. But who was the leading superpower? Who came out of World War II unscathed? And the new superpower, the most powerful country left standing really after World War II, that was America. So America inherited the British imperial system in the Middle East. But this here, it says the struggle between Britain and America for control of the Middle East. And this is another very little known fact. America had its clients, its oil clients in the Middle East. Britain also did, and they almost came to blows. There was I don't want to get into the history of it. You read this book, I guess it'll give you a better explanation than I can. But basically, how America gets involved and how there becomes tension between Britain and America. And of course, note, America and Britain are fighting over, and there's the background of the Cold War and the Soviet Union, so that added another dimension to the struggle. And of course, the Arabs in all of this were pretty much bystanders until they There was a nationalist movement in the 1950s. Anyway, I'm dragging on and on. This is I didn't mean to bore you with deep Middle Eastern history. The point I'm trying to make is this is my bread and circus. This is my favorite subject, and again, it's one you would hope if, again, Americans want to continue involvement in the Middle East, the least they can do is really understand this and understand the Middle East and the stakes involved and the players. And it's, again, that's my bread and circuses, but it's mine, and I don't want to bore you with my not very interesting or very specific favorite topic or bread and circuses. So let's move on to prompt number 2. It says the Sumerians. What is a work you read many years ago but still appreciate? For this one, I selected a book that, again, let's just say one of the first books I purchased as an adult, really, because the subject fascinated me. I read it a long time ago, but I've still got it in my library. I really do want to read it again because I think it's timeless. It's by Margaret Macmillan, and it's Paris 1919. And if you see the, again, my glare is terrible, but on the cover you've got Lloyd George, the British Prime Minister, Clemenceau, the French President, and there's Woodrow Wilson, the American President. And the subtitle is 6 Months That Changed the World. I think this is a well-known book. Again, it's dated now. This must be from the early 2000s. Yeah, 2001. But it's a great book, winner of the Samuel Johnson Prize. And basically, I think most of my audience, my viewers, know what this is. After World War I, the victorious powers, the British, the French, the Americans, they sat down in Paris to negotiate the New World Order. How would they split after World War I, the Russian Empire had collapsed and the Soviet Union took over. The Prussian-German Empire collapsed. The Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed. The Ottoman Empire collapsed. So they had to, create a new world order, create new nation states out of what had been grand, overarching empires. And that's this story. It's just, and Margaret Macmillan, she's a Canadian historian, I believe, just a great historian, one of my favorites. There's so many maps in this book. And it's really, the negotiations and the planning occurred in Paris in 6 months in 1919, but the effects were global. We look at the chapters after some introductory chapters. There's the Balkans, Yugoslavia, Romania, Bulgaria. Then you have between East and West, Poland, Czechs and Slovaks, Austria, Hungary, Italy, Japan and racial equality. A dagger pointed at the heart of China is one of the chapters. There's a chapter about Greek, the end of the Ottomans, Arab independence, Palestine. It goes all over the world, So an older book, I read it a long time ago. I really do need to reread it, but I definitely, even though I read it a long time ago, I thought it was excellent. And I'm sure I would appreciate it again if I was to reread it again. Let's go and move on to the third prompt, which is the Shang. What is your favorite non-example to pillory? So I had a bit of difficulty understanding this, but what I did understand from it is give us an example of a book you didn't like or you found a lot of faults with. For this, I came up again with a book that I should have brought a bit closer. A book that I read recently as part of my read books about America, American history, American politics for its 250th anniversary in 2026. And I mentioned it before. It's by Jonah Goldberg, and it's called Liberal Fascism. Again, the glare. The subtitle is The Secret History of the American Left from Mussolini to the Politics of Meaning. Basically, what Jonah Goldberg does in this book is he makes the argument that the left in America and throughout the world, they always equate fascism with the right, that the right or the conservatives are the fascists, that the Nazis was a right-wing party, the left was always anti-fascist, more socialistic. Jonah Goldberg was a noted neocon, a National Review writer. Here he argues no, fascism was very much a product of the left. So he discusses the New Deal, where he discusses progressivism, which he equates very similar to Mussolini and Italian fascism. Then he talks about the New Deal, which, he argues that Adolf Hitler copied and was very impressed by FDR, Roosevelt's New Deal. And then he goes into the later half of the second half of the 20th century. Things like the Great Society was influenced by fascism, all the way to Hillary Clinton being a crypto-fascist. So it's a big book, but as as he gets into the 1950s and 1960s, his argument weakens and weakens. Of course, the New Deal and the 1930s, it was a very the American system was very different to what it was now. There was a big agreement between big business, government, and the labor unions, the workers, in a system that benefited all in a very contained system. Of course, Jonah Goldberg argues that it was the hero of the conservatives. It was Ronald Reagan. He, broke a big government and he instituted real libertarianism, and he ended that whole liberal fascistic, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, 60s leftist control, 70s control of America. A lot to pillory about this book. The biggest one, he says it's the left that's bringing fascism, that is the real fascists. One thing, again, to pillory is, what about Donald Trump? I mean, Donald Trump, what is he? Well, he's liberal. He is from New York, I guess. He's, I think, for most of his history, a Democrat, but now he's a Republican, and he has a lot of the fascistic tendencies. And Jonah Goldberg himself, when Trump was elected the first time, was very critical. He was very critical. He was very much a very rhino kind of establishment Republican neocon. A lot of them were anti-Trump. He should have made an updated version for the Trump phenomenon, but of course he didn't. And now with the second Trump administration, I think he's made his peace. I think he understood, look, if I continue to criticize the Trump administration, I'll probably be arrested or something. So he's made his peace, and now I guess whatever, the whole Republican establishment has been, Trump. He's united MAGA and the neocons into this. As we're seeing in the world today, this destructive war machine that is bombing countries and assassinating leaders of sovereign nations, whether in Venezuela, in Iran, who knows who's next? Perhaps the Prime Minister of Canada, who knows? So anyway, to pillory, this one, that's the one I came. I don't want to keep going on and on. We'll go to prompt number 4, early basket makers. Name an early work that points the way to later monuments. For this one, I again struggled. It's not an easy one. You could think of, I guess you could think of many examples, but what came to me, because early basket makers reminded me of the most ancient civilization. So for this, I went right to the source of the prompt. This book, because I need to save the okay, I just lost the page. That's well, the book is this. It's by Paul Kruacek. It's called Babylon, Mesopotamia and the Birth of Civilization. This is an excellent book. an excellent book about the birth of civilization, as it's mentioned in the subtitle. But I had a quote, and I should have used a bookmark. Okay, well, I found the page. Okay, I found the page. So this is an excellent book. Highly recommended if you're into your ancient history. If you're, well, Historathon Q1 is almost ending, but you can read this at any time. Really excellent, fascinating book about ancient civilization, and very well written. Very well written. Paul Kruacek, he's just all over the place, linking, the importance of ancient civilization, especially the Mesopotamian civilization, the first civilization that we have. At the beginning of the book, and I wanted to use a quote, he discusses the move from the Neolithic, from the age of hunter-gatherers to the age of settled civilization, of farming and agriculture and government and bureaucracy and all of that stuff, civilization as we know it. What he does here is he very interestingly he compares it to the story of the Bible, and the story of Genesis, the story of Adam and Eve. So again, I'll read a quote from Kruacek's early in his book, and then I'll explain further. The Neolithic revolution that took our ancestors from hunting and gathering in small kinship-based bands to a settled communal village life of subsistence agriculture was the greatest ever mass destroyer of skills, cultures, and languages in human history. Tens of thousands of years of accumulated knowledge and elaborate tradition were swept aside. Recent studies of this pivotal period of human history concur. No band of hunter-gatherers can simply have given up all they knew and settled down to sedentary farming without engaging in a giant battle of ideas. Hunting and gathering had provided a relatively easy living. The new ways were, on the face of it, much harder and less rewarding than those that had served humanity so well for so long. So just before I go on, the switch from hunter-gatherers to settled farmers, it wasn't a quiet revolution, Paul Kruacek argues. He argues that it was a reluctance on the part of most people who were living a primordial Eden. And then speaking of Eden, he links it to Genesis. It says, to the author of Genesis, the Neolithic revolution signified the fall of man. Quote, cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat of the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread. That quote was a quote from Genesis. After the fall of Adam and Eve, Adam and Eve lived in an Edenic, a paradise of hunting, gathering, of living in plenty. They just had to hunt for their food. They didn't have to toil for their food, toil through farming. And what was the words? Thou shalt eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to thee. And then it says, in the sweat of thy face thou shalt eat bread. So you're going to have to labor for your bread. I'm going to take you away from the heavenly Eden to a earth where you have to labor for your food. And then, this is a quote. I had it. Okay, I found it. So this is the version of the Bible I have, the Holy Bible. This is the New International Version. So you go to Genesis, it's chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3, 3:14. It says, to the Lord God said to the serpent, Because you have done this, this is after they eat from the forbidden tree, the forbidden fruit, the forbidden tree. So the Lord God said to the serpent, because of you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and all the wild animals. You will crawl on your belly and you will eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head and you will strike his heel. So he makes the snake the most cursed animal who has to slither in the dust. For the woman, for the woman, that's Eve, he said, I will greatly increase your pains in childbearing. With pain you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. So he turns, he makes woman subservient to man. But it's interesting, that quote about to women, he said, I will greatly increase your pains in childbearing, and the pain you will give, and with pain you will give birth to children. As a punishment, and you will be forever your husband. He will rule over you. Well, the feminist movement, they've for the most part, they've solved the your husband will rule over you. So that one is they've almost very close to solving that punishment. But the punishment about the pains in childbearing, with pain you will give birth to children, that's also, I don't want to get controversial, but isn't on-demand abortion, doesn't that solve the punishment of God of giving pain in childbearing to women? Because if it is, that, pretty much nullifies Genesis, but I don't want to get controversial. I know I have a lot of religious anti-abortion viewers, so again, I'm just putting it out there. But then there's the quote right after, to Adam, to man, to men, to the male of the species. It says, to Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Thou painful toil, you will eat of it all days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food, until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust thou will return. So that's the quote, the move from the Edenic ideal to the labor for food, to become a farm, introducing agriculture and laboring for your food, toiling for your food. So that's the best example. I'm sorry if I went on and on. So it said the early name an early work that points the way to later monuments. So I went to the earliest, and it really builds on many later monuments much later on. Let's go to prompt number 5, the Babylonians. What book did you expect to be impenetrable, but you found quite easy to sink to? For this one, again, I might just go off camera for just 1 second. For this, I had always wanted to read the Russian literature in general, but I avoided it because I thought, they're big books, Tolstoy and Dostoevsky, and it sounds very intimidating. But a lot of my booktuber friends said, no, don't be intimidated. You can start small, take baby steps, then move on to the bigger ones. So instead of the prompt says a book that intimidated you, what does it say? That you expected to be impenetrable, but you found quite easy to sink to. I'm talking about not just one book, but Russian literature in general. The first book I was given to kick my rear end into starting reading Russian literature was a gift from my good friend Angelina at Books Do Things to Me. This is called, this is a Penguin Classics. It's Russian Magic Tales from Pushkin to Platonov. I started with this, and it was a good start because these are folk tales, and it's very magical and very wild and fantastical, and it tells you not to take Russian literature too seriously. It's really, at the end of the day, literature, and you can make of it what you want and take from it what you want. And then I read this. This is much more modern, much more recent Russian literature, The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. And again, this was also a very magical realist, very fantastical, but a comedy. So it really, again, reminded me you don't have to take Russian literature so seriously. Although Tolstoy and Dostoevsky look like very serious sort of authors, very austere, they were. There's still a lot of comedy as well in Russian literature. And then this one, because I wanted to get into Tolstoy and War and Peace, and it's a big thing, and so is Anna Karenina, but I was, by my friend, one of my viewers, Doug, he said, don't start with War and Peace, go with a small Tolstoy to dip your dip your toe in the water and get an idea. So take a small Tolstoy novella, really a Tolstoy short story, The Death of Ivan Ilyich. So I read this, gulped it down, highly enjoyed it, and now I'm ready to tackle War and Peace, which I'm currently reading. I started it, but again, because of the situation, I've actually put it on pause, but I'm going to restart it, hopefully, and get it read. So for that prompt, that's what I came up with. Russian literature in general. It was impenetrable at the beginning, but once I dipped my toe, I'm much more confident right now. Prompt number 6, the Persians. How do you organize your bookshelves? I've discussed this previously on my channel. You can see my bookshelves behind me. I'm going to do this really quickly. So this shelf over here, this is ancient history, mostly ancient Middle East, but also Rome, Greece, but mostly Middle East. A lot of ancient Egypt, ancient Mesopotamia, that sort of thing. There is what I call medieval, my medieval shelves, but it's medieval in the Western world. In the Middle East, the medieval period was the golden age of Islam. So there's a lot of books about the coming of Islam, the Crusades, all the way to really the Ottoman Empire and everything in between. And then I have my shelves here. Those shelves over there, if that was ancient and that was Middle Ages, let's call it, that's my modern Middle Eastern history. So this is 19th century, 20th century, some 21st century, and then over here are books about my local region, also mostly modern. So the Gulf, the Emirates, etc., those kind of books. At the end, I've got my everything else. I've got a lot of like African history, Chinese history, Indian history, a lot of that there, a lot of popular culture kind of books. And then on this side, you guys can't see it, but it's almost symmetrical to what you're seeing there. I've got most of my Western, British history, European history, American history, and then I've got my fiction shelves. That's pretty much how I've organized. I've tried to keep it organized so I can find a book. If I need one, I can find one. The only issue with doing this is I'm getting a lot of that stuff. Do you see a lot of that? And I need to fix that. There's a lot of transwise books horizontally, and that's not good. It's damaging the book, so it defeats the purpose. You can see, I can put these in a separate shelf, but I'm trying to keep them all in one place. But it's a double-edged sword because again, I'm getting issues with storage. So I need to fix that. But in short, that's how I organize my books. Prompt number 7, Ishango bone of Middle Stone Age Central Africa. Ishango bone of Middle Stone Age Central Africa. Okay, this is a part of the world or history I know very little about. I should know more. Perhaps my friend Shelf Learner, he's got an interest in African history. But anyway, the prompt says, how does the length of a work affect your reading experience? Well, I mentioned I started with a small Tolstoy to build my confidence before I began with War and Peace. But usually a length of a book doesn't matter. It's the subject matter. So if I'm in a bookstore and I see the book, whether it's 100 pages or it's 1,000 pages, if the subject interests me, the page count doesn't really affect. That's not my I don't judge a book by its size. I won't say, oh, this is big, no way I'll read it, or no, this is too small, it's not deep enough. Definitely not. If it's recommended or I find it interesting, I'll get it regardless of size. Okay, I promised that this would be a short video, and I've again broken my promise, but we've got three more prompts. Number 8, the Huns. How do you read, pack books while traveling? How do you read, pack books while traveling? Well, when I travel, what I do is I don't have a Kindle. I used to have a Kindle. I used to have 3 Kindles, one after the other. The problem I have with Kindles, I don't have a problem with Kindles, but except one problem, which is I always break them. I always drop them. The screen cracks. I sit on them. The screen cracks. It's on my bed, and I get out of bed, and it flies off and breaks. I've broken 3 Kindles. They're very, very fragile. And these are with covers, protective covers. They're very fragile devices. That's one reason why. The second reason I don't read as much Kindle as I should to avoid this kind of thing is I like to support the local bookstores here. Here again, where I'm at, the country I live in, United Arab Emirates, the whole country, there's about 3 bookstores. So I try to patronize these bookstores. If I give all my money to Elon Musk, not Elon Musk, but Jeff Bezos, they'll get hurt. These are small businesses, so I try to support them, But I have nothing against Kindle, and that's what I usually do. I take my iPad that has the Kindle app. When I'm traveling, I'll put books in the Kindle and read those. So I try not to carry books when I'm traveling because it's too heavy. The problem is when I get to the destination or when I'm traveling, I tend to load up on books. I mean, that's what when I travel, because I like to travel alone. So I need things to do, and sometimes you want to escape from the elements. The best thing is a bookstore because you can spend an hour or hours in a bookstore, sheltered from the environment, and you also get an idea of the country, the place that you're visiting. So I'll plan like where all the landmarks and all the touristy stuff is, but I'll also make sure where the bookstores are, and I make sure that the bookstore is on my itinerary. So I always stop in bookstores, and I always pull the trigger, and I always end up buying books. If it's manageable weight, I'll carry it with me somehow, some way, my backpack, my luggage, just haul it. But as I travel, if I've traveled to multiple destinations, which I've done before, what I've learned, it does cost me a bit of money, but not as much as you would expect. I think it's a worthy investment. It's better than paying for extra luggage on a plane or anything, because I use the post office of the country that I'm visiting. So if I have a lot of books, I'll find the post office. Whichever foreign country you go to, post office workers usually speak English, so I'll get a box, I'll load it, I'll tape it, I'll put my address, I'll pay whatever the freight charges are, and I'll just send it to my home country. And I've done that. I've used the French postal service, I've used the Italian postal service, I've used the Polish postal service, I've used what else? Usually this is in Europe. The Greek postal service. I've used quite a few postal services, and let me tell you, these European postal or any postal office, they're very bureaucratic, but the packages do arrive. They do arrive. So that's usually what I do. I just and it's part of the tourist experience. If you want to understand the country, go to their post office and see the level of service, and you get a good understanding of the country in general. Prompt number 9, because again this is going long, the Aurignacian culture. I admit, even the smart, wise guy, smart alecky in me doesn't know what that is, but I'll check, maybe I'll Google it later. But what are your favorite pop culture references to ancient cultures? For this, again, I was struggling, so I'm gonna put something different. This is a book I've shown previously, quite recently. It's by Alex von Tunzelman, and it's called Real History. Real, not real. It's REEL, real, like a cinema reel, like that thing over there with the. And the subtitle is The World According to Movies. And this is a very smart concept that Alex von Tunzelmann, who was, when she wrote this, she was a very young author. She wrote, there she is, and this isn't her first book, so she's young here. She wrote some very good histories about the end of the British Empire and India, the Middle East, etc., and in the Caribbean as well. Her other books are Indian Summer, The Secret History of the End of Empire, Red Heat, Conspiracy, Murder, and the Cold War in the Caribbean. She also has another book called Sand, Blood and Sand, something like that, about the Middle East and in the Cold War. But this book she wrote is like a, again, I've mentioned it earlier. What it is it's history. So if you look at the table of contents, part 1 or chapter 1 is the ancient world. Part 2 is Middle Ages. Part 3 is, or chapter 3 is Renaissance. Part 4 is Darkness and Enlightenment. 5 is The Empire Strikes Back, which I think is the Industrial Revolution. And then chapter 6 is Oh, What Lovely Wars. That's, I think, the First World War, the Second World War. And then 7, Modern Times. Basically, what she does in this book is she how can I explain this? She discusses movies that are historical, pretty much. So, for example, and this prompt is about the ancient world, so I'll just focus on the ancient world. For ancient world, for example, there's a movie, let me find one that, for example, there's the movie Troy from 2004. The director was Wolfgang Petersen, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Troy featured Brad Pitt, was it? Yes, Achilles was played by Brad Pitt. So here, Troy is from 2004, but its setting was 1250 BC. So it's learning about history through movies. Let's see another book. This book, another movie. Sorry, this one is called Samson and Delilah. It's from 1949, and it's set again in the year 1000 BC. This is a movie reenactment of a biblical story, I believe. There's the movie Alexander, also from 2004, but the setting of the movie is 325 BC. What's another one? Spartacus from 1960. Again, this is a movie about the Spartacus revolt in Rome from 71 BCE. You get the idea. So it's learning about history or discussing historical movies or movies based on history, basically. And because this prompt is about ancient cultures, I just focus on the ancient cultures, but she goes through all of human history. That's the best one I could come up with. Interesting premise for a book, and a good way for those who are history fans who perhaps don't like to read history or want to get into history but don't want to read books and books about it. You can do it through watching movies and probably learn a lot about history. But yeah, that's it. There's one more tag. It's the Minoans, established trade routes and tag some people. I've unfortunately filmed this without making a list of people to tag, but I should because I want to highlight channels. I don't have it on the top of my head. What I'll do is I'll either tag people in the description, and you can see, you'll get a mention, or you can see those and check out those channels. I should have made a list. It's a bit too late now. Or I can say, of course, as for any tag video, if you want to you want to do this tag, by all means, and you have a booktube channel, by all means do it. I promised a short video. We're getting to 15 minutes. I'm gonna cut this up. I'll see if I can. I'll tag people in the description, because if I start thinking now, we're gonna go for another 10 minutes of me umming and awing and thinking of people to tag. But I want to end this before the 50th minute mark. Again, I apologize. Thank you if you've made it this far. Thank you to Mike for tagging me in this. He'll be in the description. The originator of this tag, the Rambling Raconteur, will be in the description below. Like I mentioned, other channels I want to tag, you should check out their channels. I'll tag them if they want to do it, of course. But for me, it's a wrap. Salute, BookTube.